This fun and eerie story begins with a man named Brandon, who used to dress as a joker and make everyone laugh. Some time ago, Brandon had a very beautiful wife. He truly loved her deeply. But people often wondered how someone like Brandon managed to get such a gorgeous wife. One day, Brandon discovered that his wife was having an affair with another man. Heartbroken, he tried asking her about it, but instead of answering, she divorced him and married the other man. From that moment on, all of Brandon's happiness was snatched away. He started behaving strangely and erratically. Now, Brandon was performing on stage as a joker and began telling the audience a different story. This story was about a girl who had to act as if she was possessed by a demon, and a father, priest, with his full camera crew was ready to record the event. It was all completely scripted and staged. The priest, too, was going to act like he was performing an exorcism to cast the demon out of the girl's body. But no one had any idea that things would take such a dark turn. As soon as the camera started rolling, the girl began acting like she was truly possessed. The priest began his fake exorcism preparations, but suddenly, the girl's behavior started changing drastically. It seemed she was no longer acting according to the script. It soon became clear that a real demon had possessed her. Her body was completely overtaken. The priest, cameraman, and the whole crew became terrified. They had no idea how to handle the situation. So the priest decided to perform a real exorcism, grabbed his holy book, and approached the possessed girl, who now looked so terrifying that even the priest was scared of her. Her eyes had turned completely black, and blood was dripping from her mouth. The entire exorcism was being shown live, and viewers were watching closely, confused and horrified, unsure of what would happen next. As the priest began reading from his holy book and moved closer to the girl, she screamed wildly and broke free, leaping directly at the priest to attack him. The demon possessing her then smashed all the cameras. Sometime later, both the priest and the girl regained consciousness. Looking around, they saw that their entire crew was deeply shaken. Eventually, the girl seemed to return to her normal form, as if the demon had left her body. The priest believed they had successfully banished the spirit, but what happened next was shocking. The demonic entity had taken control of the viewers who were watching the live footage. Now, not just one person, but many had fallen under the demon's influence. Their eyes turned black, and they began attacking the people around them. Even before killing their own family members, they didn't hesitate or recognize them as their mother, daughter, or loved ones, because the demon was now controlling all of them. Brandon concluded by saying that all of this happened when someone tries to mislead or deceive. Brandon, still standing on stage, continued telling people how everything went wrong because of fake and misleading things being shown to others. He said all these terrible things were bound to happen. He explained that people only think about themselves, and this kind of selfishness gives birth to a dangerous demon inside their minds. Then Brandon began telling another story, this time about a serial killer. This killer was extremely dangerous and psychotic. If anyone talked to him the wrong way, he would kill them in cold blood, without revealing his identity. We never saw the killer's face, but he wore a strange mask to hide his identity while committing murders. This killer had different kinds of weapons, all looking advanced and deadly. Then we are shown a house in the middle of the jungle where a girl was living alone. Her parents were out for the day, so she was completely alone. Just then, she received a phone call from her friend saying, "I'm coming over to your house." She invited him, and within a short time, he arrived. The friend brought her a teddy bear and a beautiful bouquet of flowers, which really impressed her. But neither of them had any idea that the same dangerous killer had now arrived at that very location. Before they could even react, the killer murdered the girl's best friend. He had attached sharp blades to the end of a chain, which he pierced into the friend's body and started pulling him. The girl watched her friend dying horribly and got terrified, immediately running back inside the house. But the killer entered the house too and started searching for her. The girl hid in the kitchen and tried to silently sneak away, hoping he wouldn't find her. But the killer spotted her and started firing sharp nails from his hand. Some of the nails hit her directly in the legs, making it nearly impossible for her to walk. Still, she somehow managed to escape the house and started running away. Just when it seemed like she might make it, the killer threw a chain weapon at her, and killed her too. No one knew why the killer murdered both of them so brutally. Then Brandon shared his inner thoughts, that when he found out about his wife's affair, he wanted to kill both of them in the same way. After telling this strange and violent story, Brandon began telling his third story, set in a world completely overrun by a zombie apocalypse. Due to a deadly virus, innocent people were turning into zombies one by one. Now, more than half the population of that world had already been converted into zombies. Any normal human seen by them would be bitten and turned into a zombie too. These zombies were also ripping apart and eating dead human flesh. We then see a group of zombies eating a man. Just then, a girl appears from behind. She looked like she had only recently turned into a zombie. The zombie girl approached the group to eat the dead man's flesh, but the other zombies pushed her away, as if they didn't want her to be a part of it. Her behavior was clearly different from the rest of the zombies. Suddenly, one male zombie from the group saw her and was shocked. For some reason, he took a small piece of flesh from the dead body and offered it to her. The girl zombie happily started eating it. After that, the two zombies walked toward a nearby park together. The male zombie was even pushing the girl zombie on different swings, almost as if he was trying to make her happy. Even though they were both zombies now, they still seemed to share some kind of emotional connection. While playing, the girl zombie injured her hand and broke a bone. But the male zombie used his own hands to push the broken bone back in, healing her completely. They continued walking forward together, and it felt like they shared a relationship, one that even becoming zombies couldn't break. But as they went ahead, someone suddenly fired a gun, and the bullet hit the male zombie. The shooter was a human standing on the other side, someone just trying to protect his family from the zombies. After killing the male zombie, he was about to shoot the girl zombie too. But just then, his real daughter stopped him. She could clearly see that the two zombies weren't attacking, and that they were in fact father and daughter, trying to protect each other. The man understood and lowered his weapon. The zombie girl then helped her zombie father stand up, and they both walked away. Even though they were fully turned into zombies, their father-daughter bond and emotions still made them feel human. Now back on stage, Brandon himself was dressed like a zombie while narrating this story, clearly enjoying the act. He then told the audience more about his wife, that while she was in a relationship with him, she never wanted to become a mother. But after she ran away with her lover, within just 1 year, she had a beautiful baby. This made Brandon realize that his wife had been cheating on him all along, and never really loved him. These thoughts gave rise to strange and dark feelings inside him. Building on this, Brandon began telling his next story, about an overweight woman and her husband. This woman was unusually happy and was helping her husband get dressed. The truth was, her husband was suffering from a rare and deadly type of cancer, and he was going to die within 24 hours. That's why the overweight wife had been preparing for the funeral in an unusually cheerful manner, as if she was genuinely happy about her husband's death. She brought him a suit, shaved his face, and did several other things for him. But her husband didn't like any of it. She had organized the funeral like a grand party, inviting lots of guests. After the 24 hours passed, her husband finally died, and preparations for the funeral officially began. But just as everyone stepped outside the house, something shocking happened. The dead man came back to life. Seeing him alive, the overweight wife was terrified. She immediately called her mother to show her what had happened. Even though her husband had clearly come back to life, she explained to her mom that guests were already arriving for the funeral, and if they found out that her husband was alive, they would leave in shock, and the funeral would never happen, causing them huge embarrassment. So, the mother and daughter decided together that they would kill the man for real. The husband quietly watched all of this unfold without resistance. Then, the wife and her mom started stabbing him repeatedly in the stomach with sharp knives. But to their shock, nothing happened to him, as if the wounds didn't affect his body at all. Exhausted, the mother and daughter were unable to kill him even after multiple attempts. Meanwhile, the man just sat there smoking a cigarette and laughing, as though he had become immortal. Finally, the wife gave up, realizing she couldn't kill her husband. But then, her mother walked up to him and slapped him hard across the face, and just like that, he died instantly. What knives couldn't do, a simple slap did. It was completely unexpected and bizarre. But Brandon was trying to make a point. When his wife left him, he had the strong desire to kill her, but he never acted on it. That story was a reflection of his own suppressed rage and heartbreak. Then Brandon moved on to his next story. In this one, a group of people were seen falling from the sky to the ground. They were all being dropped from a spaceship at once. As soon as they started figuring out what was happening, a giant robotic alien appeared before them. The robot said, "I will kill all of you humans, because I don't want a single human left on Earth." Everyone panicked and started running for their lives, but the robot began attacking and killing them one by one without mercy. At the same time, lightning was striking from the sky. When all the people begged God for help, suddenly, a rooster descended from the sky and rushed at full speed to fight the massive robot. Even though the rooster was tiny in size, it was incredibly powerful. Within moments, the rooster completely dismantled the giant robot, tearing apart its internal systems and joints. Thanks to that rooster, everyone's life was saved. The people were so moved that they started worshipping the rooster as their god. But Brandon himself didn't fully understand why he told this story. He just had a feeling that somehow, all of these stories might be connected later on. And with that thought, Brandon began his next story. This time, it was about a man named Dath, who had a sweet little son named Devil. Devil was like any other normal child. He loved watching cartoons and would spend most of his time in front of the TV. One day, Dath had to go to work, so he left his son at home with the task of painting the house. But after painting for a little while, Devil got bored and went back to watching TV. Actually, Dath was no ordinary man. He was someone who kept records of all the people on Earth who had died, especially those who had committed suicide. In a way, he was like Yamraj, the god of death, preparing detailed reports of who died, how they died, and why. Dath wanted his son Devil to grow up and follow in his footsteps, becoming like him. But Devil was too busy watching cartoons. One day, Devil saw an angel inside the TV, who was saving people's lives. He became so deeply inspired that he decided he wanted to become an angel too. He was filled with joy and began transforming himself into an angel. When Dath returned home and saw what his son was doing, he became furious. He beat Devil badly and told him to stop this nonsense immediately. But Devil wasn't the type to give up so easily. Despite his father's warnings, Devil left home and descended to Earth as an angel, determined to help those in need and save lives. The first place Devil went was a factory nearby, where he saw that a cow was being slaughtered for meat. Seeing this horrified him. He couldn't understand why people were killing animals like this. So he decided that he wouldn't let the next cow die. Devil quickly rescued another cow and took it far away, releasing it safely on top of a hill. He felt extremely proud, knowing that he had just saved a life. But shortly after, something terrible happened. The same cow was hit by a car, and the couple inside the vehicle also died in the accident. Only their small son survived, who was crying uncontrollably. When Devil approached and saw what had happened, he was shocked and guilt-ridden. Realizing that his attempt to save one life had accidentally taken 3 others, he quickly captured the souls of the dead couple and forced their spirits back into their bodies. But once revived, the couple came back not as humans, but as zombies. They were completely out of control, and the 2 zombie parents leapt onto their own child and bit him, turning the little boy into a zombie as well. Now Devil didn't know what to do anymore, because he had completely messed everything up. A little while later, when Devil's father, Dath, arrived, he saw the situation and instantly fixed everything at once. He absorbed the souls of all 3 zombies into himself. That's when Devil finally understood, he could never become an angel. So instead, he went with his father to an amusement park, where they were riding a roller coaster. But due to a malfunction, everyone on the ride died, except for Devil and Dath. After that, Devil began taking records of the dead, just like his father did. He gave up on becoming an angel and accepted his fate as the next god of death. Dath was truly happy that Devil had finally understood, and the 2 of them began doing their Grim Reaper duties with dedication. Brandon was trying to convey that parents always want the best for us, which is why we should follow their guidance blindly, because they see things we don't. Immediately after that, Brandon began his next story. This time, we saw an astronaut whose spaceship had completely broken down. Now, she was drifting alone in the vast emptiness of space, because all the other astronauts were already dead. The oxygen inside her suit was running out, and she was struggling to breathe. In the complete silence of space, there was no one who could come to her aid. For hours, she kept drifting, until suddenly, she saw a black hole right in front of her, which was pulling her in with immense force. Within seconds, she was sucked into the black hole. Inside, she discovered a dark dimension, where many other astronauts like her were also trapped, endlessly floating in circles inside that void. Brandon used this story to tell the audience how alone he feels in his own life, and how there's nothing left worth living for. Just like the astronaut, he too is drifting through the darkness, feeling lost. And like him, there are many others trapped in the same emotional black hole, but they must find a way to escape. Then, Brandon told one more story, this time about a psychotic man who was conducting strange experiments. He never left his house. One day, this psycho went to take a shower, but instead of water, he bathed in blood. His shower pipe was directly connected to a girl's body, a girl he had imprisoned inside his home. He was bathing in her blood. Inside his room, there were many other girls, all locked in cages, helpless and terrified. Even though Brandon was telling these horrifying stories to his audience, the reality was something very different. In reality, that psychotic man was none other than Brandon himself. After telling all those horrifying tales, he went straight to his ex-wife's house, the one who had remarried. Brandon, now completely insane, first killed his ex-wife's second husband. Then, without a second thought, he brutally murdered her too. He kept stabbing her repeatedly, like a madman who had been waiting for this moment for years. All the stories Brandon had shared were somehow connected to his own life. The audience, who had once listened to him with curiosity, were now terrified, because Brandon's true nature had finally been revealed. But Brandon stopped them all for one final story. He spoke of a circus, where a joker was standing on stage, throwing a large bomb at a group of children. The kids thought the bomb was fake and began passing it to one another like a game. But as soon as the bomb exploded, all the kids were covered in blood. The other clowns in the circus came out and began brutally attacking the audience. They had guns, swords, and many deadly weapons, and they spared no one, not even the elderly or children. Amid the chaos, there was one brave girl who stood up and fought back against the clowns. Seeing her courage, more people began to rise up and fight the clowns too. However, after a while, the brave girl let her guard down, and from behind, a vicious clown stabbed her to death. Now, back on stage, Brandon, dressed as a joker, confessed the truth. Before coming here today, he had brutally murdered his own wife. And he wasn't afraid of anyone. All the stories he had told were fragments of his reality, hints and reflections of the dark, murderous mind behind the smile. And with that, this dangerous tale comes to an end.